for me, the best response to these people is, okay, let's say your conspiracy theory is right. It's not, right? Developers, writers, people have come out on record saying, no, that's not why we made the character black. But let's say everyone is lying and you have the truth. What's wrong with that? Why? Can you explain why that's bad? That we made sure this company used their infinite power to make sure that games had more representation in it. Like, no one can explain that, because they know what they sound like when they try to.
It's also the woke narrative push thing, right? It's
right.
You're just saying that your world is very homogenous, and that the people you surround yourself with look like you, and you want to watch things and play things and do things that look like you. And what's really funny to me is, right, them being like, I don't want your forced woke narratives into my games. So you're saying you want to be represented in games.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Is that, but they can't, I'm confused.
Yeah. Change your fucking tampon and have another drink, you crazy fucking bitch.
Oh, Alyssa, who, if I'm not mistaken, you are senior editor at Kotaku and a journalist who is very deeply in tune with what's going on in the gaming industry. And, contrary to the belief of some really crusty nerds, not the good kind of crusty like we are. We're crusty because we're old. They're crusty because they're just terrible. To kind of set this up, because I think that for anyone who's missed the previous show, we kind of did a little bit of a dive into the Sweet Baby Incorporated drama, controversy, whatever anyone wants to call it. And we actually were looking at one of your articles about this. So we wanted to have you here to kind of help give that extra insight, because I feel like everyone's had a little bit of an overreaction.
A little. Gamers being unreasonable? What? Yeah.
To say that she's been on a quest for clout is an understatement. Her groundbreaking news coverage on Sweet Baby Inc. and the constant engagement with people on Twitter trying to stir up drama endlessly was so tiresome for anyone that was more mature than a 15-year-old, to say the least. Her sad attempts at baiting Grumps and then blocking him and unblocking him, total cringe, dude. And with this mess of Kotaku's editor-in-chief bailing, she's taken it upon herself to hit the center stage. As you remember, her tweets supporting the editor-in-chief leaving while holding on to her job, to now talking to higher-ups.
Kotaku staff had a somewhat productive meeting with management. Expect news to continue coming for us, at least for now. Your support and your voices have certainly helped. Thank you so much.
361 likes. My God, I've never seen such an amazing grassroots movement.
I would be remiss if I didn't credit Hello Jen Glenn for seeing the tide shift and refusing to ride along with it. Her bravery is a huge part of why today went the way it did. Give her all the flowers and all the jobs.
I doubt that Jen quitting changed much, to be honest. It seems like editors constantly quit GO Media whenever they crack the whip and demand that people in their subsector of a job do their job. I bet Alyssa smelled a shot at a promotion, and that's why she didn't jump ship, because now I think she's one of the senior editors. And even Grums makes a point as well, as saying this is most likely a possibility.
Kotaku's editor-in-chief resigns, leaving a power vacuum at the top. Alyssa and Carolyn Panette are the only editors left that would be next in line for the promotion. Alyssa convinces GO Media to let her continue to write news while Kotaku pivots to gaming guides. She cites her prior hit piece on Kabuto's Rambo was the second highest traffic article on Kotaku.
Yeah. And I think that the article was intended to chill everyone out that was already kind of starting to get going by just, presenting what is actually going on. And naturally that turned into it's, worse now.
Well,
but I guess
the problem is that you're a part of the deep state and you're going to lie. Anyway,
yeah, I'm being paid somehow all at once. I am broke, being paid by Phil Spencer, being paid by BlackRock, being paid by Sweet Baby Inc., who has like 19 employees,
Mhm.
and also somehow a prostitute and making money that way. So it's
But you also
I really
can't
wish
get
I could
laid, I'm
feel this.
sure, right?
But also, yeah, I'm so ugly that I can't have sex.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's just,
And
yeah,
you don't
I
have
really
J
would
cup
love-
breast. You don't have J cup
Don't
breast
have
either.
J-cup titties.
See how she rewrites history? Chris, the Sweet Baby Inc. developer, or whatever the hell he was always starting people on Twitter. Most famously, he was starting crap with Kyle on Twitter and calling him broke and dusty and all sorts of things. Now, if Chris never went after Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, none of us would have known it existed. On top of that, he tried to get it taken down with false reports. He literally said report the f out of this guy to get him to lose his Steam page. This is a Streisand effect. Everything happened because of the hubris of that man. It wasn't just random gamers pitchforking some stupid company we all knew sucked. Nobody cared beforehand. And as you can see, Melissa is clearly dishonest with the events that led up to the Streisand effect I just mentioned. So how can you trust her journalism? It's clearly biased. I'm sure that there are people in the Sweet Baby Inc. Detective group that might be a little wonky, but that's every group in the damn world, dude.
Or something.
Yeah.
Wait. You left out PSYOP. You left out did we cover PSYOP?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
We PSYOP.
This
Yeah.
your PSYOP for for the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, or DEI, as people like to call it, not actually knowing what it is. So here's, I think this is the most important question, more important than anything regarding Sweet Baby Inc. or Crusty Nerds. Here's the real question. How do you have time to do all that? And how do I sign up for it so that I can get paid by so many random people who aren't connected?
I mean, I wish I knew, because apparently, I signed a contract in blood while I was not aware of it. And there were multiple contracts, and now that's my other job on top of what I do for Kotaku. It's pretty impressive but that's how, conspiracy theories and the people who peddle them work. It just spins out, and no one is even really consistent with the attacks against me right now. They're racially tinged because they think I'm Latina, but then they're also anti-Semitic because they think I'm Jewish. But then they're also saying that I'm anti-Semitic because I said you can't be racist against white people. And so it's just this kind of nothing's consistent because they're just kind of throwing everything at a wall and seeing what will stick. And all of it is, hateful kind of stuff.
Use new sweet fish every day. Keep that skunky cut away. Sweet fish.
Well, it's I learned a couple of lessons this weekend as well, right? So I'm from a pretty run-of-the-mill, middle-classy, blue-collar town on Long Island where you talk shit, you got hit, and that was kind of my childhood and my upbringing. We got in fights. My soccer team got in fights. We got in fights, and that was what we knew we were known as. And it's weird to be having this stuff happening on the internet because the me that's would confront someone being awful in public is shut up, just like I would here, but it turns out that responding to things, especially people who don't want to hear logic, they don't want to be reasonable, they just want to spew hate, they want to try and gotcha, they're debating you, I don't think it's worth your time. There's a couple of great things you can use on Twitter that's Google Chrome plugins that will automatically block certain blue check spam accounts or people who don't have profile pictures or people who have brand new accounts that are obviously sock puppets that just automatically go into replies and block. I would suggest it's very helpful. And also you can set notifications so that you can't see anything from someone who doesn't follow you when they reply, which is also very helpful. But yeah, I would say it can be really overwhelming, but it is really good to also remember that it is the internet and it is not the real world. And when you go like this and shut your laptop, it's not there anymore.
It's gone. It's gone.
Alyssa contacting Melanie Mack in a very odd change of pace, but it'll all make sense in a second.
There's a story I've been simmering that I really want to pick back up again. If anyone has any connections to a prominent female Twitch streamer / gaming personality who leans very hard into Christianity and homophobia, DM me or email me a link in the bio.
Melody Mac obviously catches wind and says,
You know, you could always just talk to me if you want, but it looks like you'd rather find people who don't like me to help you formulate some hate and lies to fit a narrative you inevitably made up in your mind for your witch hunt.
Melody Mac has already called it.
Hi, Melanie. I would love to talk to you. My email's in the bio. If you want to reach out, I plan on sending one your way earlier next week as it's EOD for me. Thanks.
This seems disingenuous because Alyssa wanted to fight Melody Mac for the Creators Clash, which it's funny on so many levels because no one knew who the hell she was during the Creators Clash, and the few people that know who she is now don't care. Alyssa clearly has an axe to grind and a desire for clout that anyone can see, and it's as clear as day. Grum summed it up perfectly. This is not journalism, it's anger and a power play. Exactly. Alyssa knows that the writing's on the wall. Kotaku's days are numbered.
Kind of good to remember.
It's kind of funny. It's a thing that while I have grown to no longer love this comedian because they're a whole piece of shit these days, apparently, and willfully so.
Last time this brother felt a breast, it was in a bucket of KFC. Extra crispy. Every time it goes to SeaWorld, they pay him. He must be on that new diet, Slim Slow.
They did say something that has always kind of resonated with me, and it's that Twitter's not a real place. So that's what I always tell myself. And whenever, like, cause not on the level that you have gotten, obviously. But yeah, I having to, it is so important to kind of take those breaks and be like, hey, I'm going to just, let's put the phone down. Let's uninstall the app for a little bit. Let's go outside. Let's talk to serious people. Let's talk to serious people for a moment.
Yes. All of that. And remembering too that like every time, you know, I said, and also like, it wasn't, you know, no one gives you a handbook for this stuff, right? So at first, like I said, I got really like frustrated and angry, and I wanted to like stick up for myself and say things like, you know, you're saying that like this is racism against white people, and like that doesn't even exist. That's stupid. And then of course, look what that turned into. That turned into now everyone's sending me emails that's like, you hate white people and you should be fired for being racist against them. And I'm like, this is what this has turned into. Like, so it's just, yeah, at first maybe you want to like say some shit and get angry and frustrated, and then you remember that every time you say something, 500 more sock puppet accounts will pop up. It's like the butterfly effect. Like, for every one tweet you make, 600 anime avatar Twitter account holders will show up and yell slurs in your replies. And it's kind of like, all right, well, I'm just gonna start finding a middle ground. Like I have to be on Twitter for work. I have to, you know, obviously keep communicating. I'm not gonna go away, but I'm certainly not gonna try and debate chuds in my replies.
On top of that, she said herself, if her journalism career doesn't pan out, she'll go back to Adelaide. Yes, that's right. I'm not even joking. Here are a few tweets that have recently picked up some steam.
I'm now best friends with a Miami stripper named Penny. We are quoting TikToks while jiggling her boobs. It'll be an easy transition for me. I'm just gonna go back to sex work because at least when I get a lot, I get paid for it well.
She's gone back to whoring.
Oh God, if I ever get fired, I'm going back to bartending and sex work. This industry. Happy International Whores Day. I used to be a cam girl. Work is work. Let me be clear. Fans good. Sex work is work. I do not want to invalidate that in any capacity. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ. Pancakes bricks. Alyssa would rather sell her ass in the streets than write video game guides laughing my ass off.
Demonizing work, harassing women who speak out exponentially more than men. At least bring your misogyny out of the Mad Men era. Yawn.
What Pancake Brick was pointing out is how your go-to if you get fired from Kotaku is to go back to sex work, which, by your own admission, is the only thing you can do that is profitable.
That's it. No, that's exactly. You mentioned something that I've talked about a lot, and it's that it's the way that the anonymity of the internet really just kind of like ramps stuff up. We get into these sort of things in real life, and sometimes people say something and then quickly, and not just because they're cowards, because most people don't like getting punched in the face. It sucks. Or risk going to jail or getting hurt, or or awkward. Even if it's just yelling, people don't like being, just typically doesn't happen. But because people cannot get real life consequences, and even if I get beat up, it doesn't matter. But nobody wants to have to beat up somebody. It sucks. Fighting sucks. No matter win or lose, fighting sucks. But sometimes this is what you got to do. And people on the internet do not understand that, or they do, and they go, "This is the internet. Nothing's going to happen to me." They're just cowards, right?
Yeah. And they're also not, the internet is a place where you go maybe because you don't feel comfortable in the real world and you want to portray yourself as somebody that you may not be, or an even more blown out of proportion version of who you actually are in real life, which means the racism is ramped up if you're a little bit racist, and the homophobia is ramped up if you're a little bit homophobic, and you're kind of cosplaying as, that's the reason why they don't have their pictures and their real names associated with things. It's why when I was first in the Discord of this whole group in the first place, I asked flat out, just why don't you guys have your names associated with things? Because I wanted to have confirmation to what I was assuming, which was that, well, we don't want the hate that we're spewing to be associated with us.
That's right.
So that's just what it is. It's really easy to say shit when nobody can trace it back to you, and you can type it up and then, I don't know, go eat Cheetos and no one's going to show up at your house and crack you upside the head and go, don't say that. Don't say that online. And that's just how this goes. And it's this unfortunate side effect of the internet, and a doubly unfortunate side effect of a place like Twitter, which is now under, the regime of a big giant clay divorced idiot.
Yeah.
So
Even just a little kick in the cunt.
And that's what Sweet Baby Inc. does in some ways, in terms of like the cultural stuff. But in a lot of other ways, they do what like people who workshop scripts do, which is, the narrative team at, Rocksteady or whatever finishes a game. And a lot of the times when you're embedded in a game, it's really hard to pull back when you're done and look and go, is this any good? Because you're so stuck in it. So you have these companies who are composed of mostly people who are just really good writers with experience writing dialogue or things in games, and you have them do pass-throughs, or you tell them, we have this whole story written, but we have all these NPCs we want to have in this world, and they need to have lines, and they need to be colorful, and they need to feel right in this world, and they need to feel realistic. Can you guys write a bunch of like barks of an NPC being like, who goes there? Shit like that. And that's what Sweet Baby Inc. does. In some cases, they are hired by companies, by game studios who have a character that already exists that they've decided to put in the game. And they go, does this read right? Does this make sense to you? Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. And also, what's really important to remember is that they're a contractor. They're like a freelancer. They don't have any weight to throw around in these kinds of situations. They don't get hired by Insomniac and then tell Insomniac what to do. That's just not how that works. Because Insomniac's like, we're paying you to be here. We could stop paying you whenever we want. So I think that's also one of the biggest misconceptions, is people thinking that these companies bring in Sweet Baby and then Sweet Baby kind of goes like, it's my regime now. And it's not the case. They can take the advice that they're given by these consultant studios and firms and people, or they can ignore that advice. And I think that's one of the most important misconceptions happening in this whole thing.
Kotaku doesn't hire the best and brightest. They hire politically charged activists just driven by confirmation bias. Since the Sweet Baby Inc. article dropped, Alyssa has been promoting herself nonstop and doing interviews wherever she could. You would think she was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And while doing these interviews, she paints a very one-sided view of the Sweet Baby Inc. controversy. Here's her interview from CBC Listening.
The controversy started when Sweet Baby Inc. employees, a woke game consulting company whose sole mission is to push the agenda in any games they get their hands on. They're all about diversity and equity and inclusion. They lay that out. They've said they want to take over the games industry. They hate white, straight, male gamers.
In reality, Sweet Baby Inc. is hired by the video game companies to consult on stories and help write diverse characters, including, for example, the Miles Morales character in the most recent Spider-Man. Are they swapping out, white Spider-Man for black Spider-Man in their games?
No, they are not. White Spider-Man and black Spider-Man were both in Spider-Man 2.
If that's not the case, then why are people focused on this tiny Canadian company? I mean, there are a number of, as I understand it, a number of companies that do that kind of narrative design work.
Yes, they are replacing Spider-Man with Miles Morales, bro. The next game is going to make Miles the main character. So the gamers that are upset with this are right. Peter Parker is being replaced. And Alyssa doesn't seem to know that, which is wild. Oh my God.
Someone at Sweet Baby noticed that this account was made on Steam and noticed how it was gaining traction and noticed that it was intended to prevent people from buying and playing these games and requested that it be taken down for organized harassment. And that kicked off even more organization from them, the people who made the Steam group. And then it just kind of leans into the conspiracy theories that plague the internet, that plagued the first iteration of this movement against wokeness or women or people of color in games, and ultimately led to the playbook of the Trump White House.
Shut up, silly woman.
I feel like the thing that gets lost on some of these people, the detractors of this, because I've seen some people saying in the chat, and it's the same thing I thought when I initially saw the article. And this shows you just how, like, I consider myself a gamer. I've been playing video games since I was a kid, but I had never even heard the name Sweet Baby Inc. Until I read your article. And to me, while that might, at first I kind of felt like, man, that's kind of sad that I didn't know this was a thing, but it actually made me realize maybe it's a good thing, because I would only hear about it if they were either A, doing something right that made people angry for whatever reason, or if they were doing something wrong. And to my estimation, I looked at the games that they've made. They're not made. I don't want to say that, because once again, that's the misconception. But the games that they have worked with on, they've been consulted on. I've enjoyed all of them. They're not bad games. Like Alan Wake 2 is Well, I'll say Alan Wake 2's ending kind of rough until that update. But still, it was a fantastic game. I really enjoyed Spider-Man 2. I don't really know anyone who didn't.
I'm not asking you to make sense of conspiracy theories, and I apologize for doing this to your brain. But why Sweet Baby Inc? I brought this up, and just to build on this real quick, I brought this up with some other buddies who I would call them like swaying, not even left, but like swaying to the left centrist, right? Just a little bit left.
Like a little tilted.
Yeah, just like. And so I'm like, and they, and so them, I'm like, okay, cool, we're fine. We just won't talk politics. But they're like, yeah, man, I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about Sweet Baby and what they're. I'm like, what is it? Isn't this? Nah, it's more than that. Nah, you got to look into this stuff. It's more than that. What is it? What is it about Sweet Baby? Here's the question. Is there something that they did that isn't indicative of everything they do, but they're mad at that decision and they made it bigger than it was?
I think it's a million things. I think why conspiracy theories get picked up in today's day and age, and it's because there are grifters who latch onto things that have social media followings, and they decide to make their personality for 2 weeks, and then the anonymous people who follow them around like ants, go wherever they tell them. But there's a lot of reasons why I think this all came together the way that it did. There's already a natural diversification happening in games, because I don't know if anyone paid attention, but the attempt to do this 10 years ago didn't work, and people of color and women and queer people work in games now more than ever. So if you're a person of color, or you're queer, or you're a woman and you're writing game stories, maybe they kind of more reflect you a little bit, because naturally that's how these things work. Maybe people are sensing that and they want a boogeyman to point to. It has to do with the fact that I don't think it's a coincidence that the people that they're attacking the most at Sweet Baby are people of color. Really easy to get angry at somebody online that you already are angry about in general for existing in your space or whatever. And that they dared the people at Sweet Baby to stick up for themselves, which, as I have now learned, daring to do that means getting dogpiled on like you would not believe.
There was one specifically that tried to bring this misogynist angle in gaming and talk about Gamergate and all this stuff again out of nowhere back in November. So I just made a quote tweet from the Kotaku tweet headline of it. And I just said, Kotaku is gay. And so she, on her personal account, which I'm just like, who are you? I had no idea who she even was, but apparently she wrote that article. She quote tweeted me and was like, once again, I would like to challenge Melanie Mac to Creator Clash or whatever it's called, which is a boxing match.
Right.
And I was thinking, okay, that's weird that this woman just resorts to, I want to fight you. But
people are frustrated when a game comes out that isn't great. Like some might argue that Suicide Squad, I did not play it. It's not really a game I would play in general, but it was not, I think, the game that a lot of people hoped it would be, including the people who made it. And they recognize that the games industry is in it's struggling right now. It's in a weird state that people are getting laid off. There's games that are costing hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and still somehow people are getting laid off even when that game is really successful, and they want to point to something. And instead of pointing to capitalism or games industries overhiring during COVID because of how much of a boom happened during like really extreme lockdown times, and then realizing that they couldn't sustain the amount of people they hired or the growth that they had planned in like post-COVID is not even real, but in a COVID era where you can be outside, I think there's a lot of that. And then I think instead of people reckoning with the really hard to reckon with stuff, which is that we live in a late stage capitalist society that is slowly but surely collapsing in any place that it can, they go, where's my boogeyman? Oh, it's a Black woman who runs a company that works on games. And
simply put, late-stage capitalism is a term used by Marxists who dream of the fall of capitalism, and by spreading their misinformation and lies, they hope to make that dream into a reality, so that their little pocket version of a communist, socialist, Marxist utopia will come about and save the world. It'll be beautiful.
Well, and once again, I think it's the thing that I feel like it can't be said enough. It's not that, companies like Sweet Baby Inc. come along and say, yes, you're going to add LGBTQIA plus characters to your game now because I said so. And you're going to add a Black character and a Hispanic like no one's doing that. This is...
And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them the way that we cater to like a picky baby. We feed them the same thing that we know that they love, and we keep on feeding it. We're like, here you go, you love it, eat this, eat this, eat this. So that then when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which is be like, whoa, no, thank you. I do not want this. And we've actually done this so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games.
No.
They're being... no one is forcing anyone to do this stuff.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. Because they have to consider, like, I say that out as a joke, but it's actually very, very true, because if you start to consider the people who are player and audience facing and who have to deal with mitigating harm and with keeping the sentiment around their game and their project positive, there's like a genuine value that you can impress upon them with both ethically and financially. You could
and there's a certain self-awareness that you have to have of it, and this is something that I kind of always talk. I've said this ad nauseum. These companies, right, big companies. I'm not talking about indie developers, but like the ones that are led by 100 millionaires and billionaires, don't give a shit about representation. It is because the culture is shifting, and they know. people are calling us out, and this is not the 80s and 90s anymore, where you just have some stock a white guy, and then for me, the best response to these people is, okay, let's say your conspiracy theory is right. It's not, right? Developers, writers, people have come out on record saying, no, that's not why we made the character black. But let's say everyone is lying and you have the truth. What's wrong with that? Why? Can you explain why that's bad? That we made sure this company used their infinite power to make sure that games had more representation in it. Like, no one can explain that, because they know what they sound like when they try to.
Oh my fucking God, man. Like, what?
Whoa. Thanks, neighbors.
Type of whack ass shit. Look at this whack ass shit. Like, they fucking, like, that was their excuse to try to throw that in there, right? Was some fucking random, hey, thank you, Black Lives Matter. Like, what?
It's also the woke narrative push thing, right? It's
right.
You're just saying that your world is very homogenous, and that the people you surround yourself with look like you, and you want to watch things and play things and do things that look like you. And what's really funny to me is, right, them being like, I don't want your forced woke narratives into my games. So you're saying you want to be represented in games.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Is that? But we can. But they can't. I'm confused.
Yeah. Oh my God, man. Fucking dog shit ass. So I had to get the ANCAP suit. I had to fucking go through. I mean, I should web this stupid shit up, blow it up.
And
that sounds like inclusion.
That's right. But the cop out is this. All right. And the cop out is, no, I like representation. I just like it when it's done well and not forced. So it's like, okay. So the people who want it there, it's forced and bad storytelling. And the people who almost ubiquitously are white supremacists, or I would say probably, and I'm being generous here, let's say 80% white supremacists, just by a quick scroll through their deal. Even if you're 20% of that weird moderate that, I think both sides are wrong, and you think that there's a point here. Everybody who wants to see representation is doing it first. Like, where is this coming from, right?
Yeah. Go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
Yeah. So real quick, so one of the things that I hear a lot, I've seen it in the comments. This is how I built these questions, by the way. I just went to your comments, and here are the questions that I want to ask these people. Let's see if she has the answer. They just say you're lying.
Yeah.
Right? You're a liar. You are nope, it's not just narrative. It is just to push the woke agenda. You're lying.
What is woke? What is woke, by the way?
No.
Wokeism is the ethics and processes of socialism expanded beyond class struggle to include race struggle, gender struggle, sexual struggle, and any other near infinite number of marginalized groups as defined by intersectionality.
No offense, but it sounds like some
commie gobbledygook.
Spent an hour or so in the Discord of the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected Steam group. And I think, look, I think that the people who made that Discord and who made that Steam page and who are arguing in my Twitter are kind of trying to act like, well, we're so clever because we made sure to take out language that made it clear that we didn't want Black people in games or didn't want people of color in games. We just said that we want to be aware of this company and aware of what games they're working on so that we can make an informed decision and blah 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 blah. But it's like, I don't think that you think you're being as smart as like you believe you are, because everybody with any sort of sense can read between the lines as to what you're doing. And then
read between the lines, Theo. Read between the lines. You got nothing. You got nothing in court. You don't got the bookkeeper. You got nothing. Nothing. And if you were a man, you would have done it now. You don't got a thing, you punk.
Even if you were pulling it off well enough on Steam that it seems like you're not violating the TOS technically and you're not, openly being a hate campaign, you spend 5 minutes in their Discord. And that's really what drove it home for me was, okay, well, I'm going to talk to Sweet Baby and I'm going to look at this Steam page and then I'm going to, figure out where to go from there. And once you're in the Discord for 5 minutes and you see Marcus Aurelius posts and people posting like, big tittied anime girls next to like the women of Overwatch and Forspoken and going like, look at these uglies versus what we should.
Yeah, the
memes and da-da-da. All you need to do is have like an ounce of memory of the internet at any time since it's begun and know that these are echoes of hate groups that have existed and still exist. And so I think really just spending the time that I did in that Discord. And also I spoke to 2 different people in DMs at that Discord from that Discord. They're not named in my piece. One person is referenced in my piece, a 31-year-old man. And they said a lot of the stuff that you would expect them to say, that there's woke narratives getting pushed into games and they don't want to deal with it anymore. And like, call a spade at that point. That's all you have to do is report it. And so my report was pretty much just, here's how this started. Here's what the group is like. Here's what they say they exist for. And here's what Sweet Baby tells me that they do. And also, here's what people who have done narrative consulting that don't work at Sweet Baby do. And I think it's just kind of, that's just what you do. You got to cover all your bases. And I think the best thing about all of this is other people have written stories since I wrote a story, and they echo similar sentiments to what mine did. Maybe they spoke to 1 or 2 more people at Sweet Baby, or they had a different conversation with Sweet Baby. And what's really funny is the people online are saying that we're all like, circling the wagon so that we can get our stories straight. But it's like, no, that's just what happens when you research and report facts.
It's funny how you're all saying the same thing. Like, it's almost as if you're telling the truth.
Am I wrong?
I knew it. You're all in cahoots.
I think they're related, or at least in cahoots.
Wrong? Or is there a conspiracy?
Right? I just real quick, I want to address something because I have noticed a few chuds have snuck their way into the chat, and I just want to say real quick,
Chud.
just because I know you're kind. I know your types.
That's racist. Your soul. That's racist. Your eyes. That's gay. That's homophobic. That's black. That's racist. Damn.
In the words of Batman, you're a superstitious and cowardly lot. But I just want to make it.
We played Call of Duty in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
We know.
We know the words you use. I used to have Xbox Live.
Come on now. I'm playing Halo 3 on my Xbox 360 every day.
I just want to let it be known that, if you came here thinking that this was like some kind of this is the gotcha moment. No, this isn't it. You came to the wrong place. But
What? Wrong. What an idiot.
But it's nice of you to be here. And while you are here, please leave a like or dislike. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you choose because the way algorithms work, you touched a button. That's all that matters. So yeah, you do that. You tickle that like or dislike button, whichever one makes you happy at the time. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening jerking off to anime girls. Carry on, Robo.
Bitch.
Dang it, we thought we were gonna get her.
You have done that yourself.
As soon as I say it, like a red dot, just like
it's like, oh no.
This is about to go so viral. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what I was thinking.
Like, oh my god.
I just went, ugh, they got her. Just kidding.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say was what you said about the Discord was it was funny about how you like clean it up. I saw that part in your deal where you quoted them talking about cleaning up the chat.
Yeah.
And you could, it's funny because it doesn't take more than a second to look at that and go, is it because you don't approve of those words? Is it because, hey guys, I see what's being put in here. That's not who we are. Cut it the out. I'm going to ban you. No, it's, hey, people are watching. Like, stop. Like, it's going to make us look bad if we show them who we really are. That's all I want to say.
No, but you're right, and I think that's why this whole thing is very frustrating because it's well, it was just a Discord and it was getting it was just a Steam page. It was getting reported, and they were trying to cancel a Brazilian guy, and you know, all it was reporting. You know, people just want to be informed consumers, and that's all it was. It's all it was. That's all it was, and it was a hate campaign against them. And I'm like, you know, anybody with eyes or not eyes, anybody with sense, you know, you could be eyeless, you could be Pedro Pascal in Game of Thrones, and you would still know that that's what this is. And so I think the kind of like you thinking that you're above board because you don't say like the N word in your profile, like doesn't mean that it don't stink.
Well, us models, under the hot lights and all, our content can get pretty skunky. And if it isn't fresh, I'm out of business.
That's right. It's all projection. It really is I've said this a lot. It is the purest, most academically definitional form of projection, because everything that they think we do, the only reason why they think that is because that is how they look at it. Why don't I want trans people in my game? Because I hate, don't clip me, because I hate trans people and I wish they didn't exist, right?
Or secretly, they love them.
Yeah,
and they don't like being look, there's a reason why a lot of red states
too. Yep.
Oh yeah, no, there's a reason why when you do the metrics on porn sites, and it tells you that red states are usually the ones that are consuming the most trans pornography.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
That's why I say, like, just get out of the chokehold.
It's a reason,
whatever it is. but going back to like hating, it's like I hate these people. That's why I don't want to see them. If you want to see white people, less white people in the game. Therefore, you hate white people. Boom. Yeah, that makes sense to me because that's why I don't want to see trans.
It's a team of 21 right now for Validate. It's a pretty big team. It's a crazy big team for indie games.
Mm-hmm.
But who is your team? Validate has a team of mostly all people of color. We have no white people on our team. I did that because I wanted to create a safe environment. And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me.
I know some people who agree with that. Yeah, I know some people who, yeah.
And I'm not saying that white people in the industry are creating unsafe environments. I'm not saying that. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that sometimes it is hard to work with white people because they think that something made okay, but it was really a microaggression. And no one wants to deal with that while they're trying to make a game that they love.
isn't this like basically illegal for you to say like, well, we just don't hire fucking, like, imagine if somebody goes like, yeah, we just don't hire black people. It's just nuts, man.
It's like, that's always the thing. And what are we saying in the background? We're probably in our own subgroups that are highly controlled, highly gatekept, right? Talking about how much we all hate straight white Christian men. Why do they think that?
Quote, "Oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men." Another, quote, "Dumbass effing white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs peeing on fire hydrants." Another, quote, "Hashtag cancel white people." At one point, Jong tweeted a crude graph claiming that as whiteness increased, so did awful. Later, she said that white people smell like dogs. Here's another one, quote, "White people have stopped breeding. You'll all go extinct soon. That was my plan all along."
Because that's literally the world they live in, that they have their very isolated groups saying the N-word and hating people. Like, they think everything's about that. And so it goes back again to what I said about what DEI is. It's like, no, man, it's the fact that people see stupid characters and because of the internet, whatever the reason is, we're able to see bad storytelling and we can't get away with it anymore. So because video game companies either, if you're probably a smaller company, want to get it right, or you're a big company and you're the big guy with the money, want to get more money in your pocket, they're going to go, hey, we want this done. To them, the only thing that makes sense to them is, oh, it's because they hate us.
Everybody thinks it's a one-to-one, you know, like that if that hate is in your heart, it must be in someone else's heart. And maybe people are just sick of your shit.
That's it.
Kind of a crazy idea. Like,
That's
maybe
it.
I don't hate white people.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it.
In 2024. And also, like, we haven't even touched on, and I don't want to go too crazy because I've been here for quite a bit, and I know you guys have stuff to do, and I have the New York Rangers to watch, but it's an election year, and that's also why this is happening.
Yes.
This is how these
Good
things
point. Good point.
These things go, you know. It's like I saw someone tweeting like it's 2014 or it's like it's 2016, there's a war in Palestine and Donald Trump is about to be elected. It's 2024, there's a war in Palestine and Donald Trump is about to be elected, and the gamers are mad. And it's like the same thing that's happened. It's just, this is what happens. And conspiracy theories thrive in these little weird liminal states between elections. People need to rally up the base and get people angry. And how do you do that? You tell them that trans, black, lesbians with disabilities or are coming to take your games out of your house and turn your kids gay, and if you don't vote now, it's going to happen. And that's why this stuff is going down.
And they're going to take your families away, and they're going to get your babies. They're going to groom them, and they're going to have them out here.
They're going to bring them to the gay opposite conversion camps where they make you gay at them.
Well, what's funny is that they're actually right about us trying to make Christianity illegal. That's right. That's the next step, and we're just waiting.
I mean, yeah, those damn blue-haired liberals.
Well, how'd you know? Look at how many piercings she's got in her face.
Yeah,
it's like, look, man, it's not the 1950s.
Funny. Like, you think I haven't heard this since like the dawn of me being on the internet too? It's like that's kind of why this stuff got me a little bit like, you guys are goofy as hell.
Who do you guys think I could beat up in the games industry, and why is it the quartering? I'd say she's relatively fit. I'd say, good for her. I'd still fight her, though, because I'm a feminist. I'm a feminist, and so I accept your fight, Alyssa. Oh, you went... What? What? All I did was accept the fight and she blocked me?
Who